Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I am here with my good friend Tierra KJ Williams. How you doing today, T?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing very well, very well.
Good.
Yeah, so I sent you this video of a poor girl who has broke Negroitis. Apparently, it's a common disease. It's not even rare. It's kind of everywhere. And she also did something that a lot of people, a lot of like Gen Zers do. Or wait, I'm a Gen Xer, right? So the Gen Zers do it, and we don't understand it, which is like thinking that crying on the internet is going to fix a problem, and we don't understand. But well, I'm not making fun of her at all. I don't want to do that. But she was crying. She was really sad because she didn't have enough money, and she said she makes 80,000 a year, and was kind of shocked she couldn't like pay her bills and stuff. Did you see the video?
I did see it.
Yeah. So it's kind of surprising. And so what I want to do is I actually want to show this clip because I want everybody to kind of see it and kind of give an assessment on it. And also, as you come into the chat, I know some of you are going to arrive. I want to remind everybody that this podcast is on Spotify. So if you look up Dr. Boyce Watkins on Spotify, you can find the Dr. Boyce breakdown, and you can also find Dr. Boyce Daily Stock Market, where I also do some stock market analysis all day long. So let me grab the clip and play the clip, and then as folks come in, I'll play it again for those who don't get to see it the first time around. All right, so here we go.
Here we go.
All right, so give me 1 second here. So this is on my Instagram, which is Dr. Boyce Money, and I want to make sure the audio comes through. So T, let me know if you can hear the audio. Here we go.
Okay.
2 college degrees and
Yes.
close to $80,000 a year. I still cannot keep up with the cost of living. I still cannot afford all of my bills every month and have to live paycheck to paycheck. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I am sacrificing my mental health, my time, and my energy to take care of people in their most vulnerable moments. And a lot of the time, they do not make it. At the very least, I should be able to pay my bills. And for anyone who's thinking, well, you shouldn't have chose that job, somebody has to do it. And you know damn well, if your loved one was critically ill, you would want somebody to take care of them, right? Something has to give. I cannot keep doing this. I am so tired of living my life in survival mode because despite having 2 college degrees and making close to $80,000 a year, I still cannot keep up with the cost of living.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing right there. All right, so T, I assume you were able to hear her commentary about her. So a couple things that stood out to me was one, she said she has 2 college degrees, and she makes $80,000 a year, and she can't pay the bills. What are your initial thoughts?
That she's doubly in debt, right? Like it's doubly. You got 2 college degrees. That means that right now, traditionally, if you just have one, you at least like $100,000 in debt from student loans. But if you got 2, that means that doubles, right? So that means that she really can't pay for that. I just thought that I could identify with her, right? I feel like $80,000 seems like when you hear it, like, oh, that's enough money. You should be able to survive off that. But once you start to go through all the checklists of what needs to be paid for, you realize that it's going to leave you with about $200 per month. My little breakdown that I got over here left her with like $200 per month to pay her bills, depending on, certain factors. So I just, that's what I thought initially. Like it sounds good, but once you break it down, I could see why she's crying on the internet.
Yeah, it's sort of like you have the realistic or the natural way to look at it, which is it's $80,000 a year. What are you complaining about, right? Like stop
Right.
overspending. That's ridiculous. But then you kind of have this weird, almost like this Instagramish reality that says, like, no, you really afford to live the way a lot of people expect to live, on that income. Like really, when you really break it down for real, maybe that's not a lot of money. Um, and I know a lot of people, who just would have a very hard time making it with that salary. So it's kind of like it's a little confusing at times because you'll see these statistics that will talk about what average incomes are, and if you look at it in an honest way, it almost seems like those numbers are just not enough. you
Mm-mm.
know? Um,
Mm-mm.
yeah, so I was kind of being silly in terms of talking about what I saw in the video and kind of this whole phenomenon of crying on the internet. But I really do kind of feel bad for her, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is play it again because I actually have another angle I want to take as I address this. And by the way, I want everybody please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And you're watching drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. I'm here with Tierra Williams, aka Miss Black Hollywood, and I will put Tierra's Instagram up here so y'all can follow her on Instagram also. All right, so let's play this again. I like to do analysis. I like to analyze things and think them through.
Okay.
So let's look at this again.
Mm-hmm.
And there we go. All right, so I'm going to play one more time, and I'll tell you why. Here we go.
Okay.
Cannot afford all of my bills every month and have to live paycheck to paycheck. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I am sacrificing my mental health, my time, and my energy to take care of people in their most vulnerable moments. And a lot of the time, they do not make it. At the very least, I should be able to pay my bills. And for anyone who's thinking, well, you shouldn't have chose that job, somebody has to do it. And you know damn well if your loved one was critically ill, you would want somebody to take care of them, right? Something has to give. I cannot keep doing this. I am so.
Okay, so you heard her mention mention that somebody in her life is critically ill.
Mm-hmm.
Did you catch who that was? I didn't. Maybe I missed that. Was
No,
it like her mother or?
no, I thought that maybe she was maybe a nurse or somewhere, like maybe a home healthcare staff or something like that. Like she took care of loved ones and maybe got paid for that. Something along those lines.
Okay. All right. So let me kind of start in the beginning. I'm going to start with some data. And by the way, everybody, welcome. It's good to see you. I know some of you are coming into the chat right now. And make sure you make yourself seen. Shout out what city you're from, stuff like that. Okay. So here is some data on how much where your income lies in the whole range of incomes in America. So they, according to the Census Bureau, I guess this is 2023 data. Low income is less than 40,000 a year. Lower middle income is 40,000 to 65,000 per year. Middle income is 65 to 100,000 a year. To be upper middle income, you make 100 to 150. High income is 150. Now, if she lives in a big city like a New York, 80,000 is at the very bottom of middle income. In New York, to be upper middle income, you got to make 150 to 300,000, and to be considered high income, you have to make 300,000 a year. Okay, so that's what the data says. Now, let me tell you what Dr. Boyce says. First off, I'd love to talk to her and ask a few simple questions like, tell me about your student loans. You said you have 2 degrees. You probably have debt. A lot of people don't know that I want to say 60% of Black income goes towards servicing debt. So if anybody wants to know where your Black wealth is going, why it's disappearing, just go look at the university you went to. You went to college because you thought you were going to better your life and create opportunities for yourself. Well, I hate to tell you, but you got hoodwinked, you got bamboozled, run amok, led astray. They lied to your Black ass because these white folks literally lined everything up so they can get more of your money. And I just can't help but to say it that way because it's scamish in the sense that and I say this as a college professor. I mean, I've taught at University of Kentucky, Indiana University, Syracuse, all that. Y'all know my history, and there's no reason that it should cost $200,000 to get a bachelor's degree. And there are mechanisms that were put in place that led to this particular outcome. So and I can go into that one day, maybe during Money in the Morning class. If you want to join us in our free financial class, just go to b1moneytips.com. The URL is right there on the screen. So that's the first thing. She probably has student loan debt. And now the second thing that I want to draw everybody's attention to is she mentioned somebody being critically ill. Now, I don't know if that's if she's referencing her job as a nurse or if she's talking about somebody in her family being critically ill, like a parent or something like that. Now, let me say this. She could be part of what they call the sandwich generation. Have you heard of the sandwich generation, Tierra?
Tell me about it, boys.
It's not where they eat sandwiches.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the sandwich generation is they probably do eat sandwiches though. The sandwich generation is basically people. I think the age range is like 40 to like 55. where you're young enough to have young kids, maybe, and but old enough where your parents are aging and you have to take care of parents. So when
Sure.
she said terminally ill, that shot up my spidey senses. Like, I wonder if she's got somebody that she's taking care of financially, because I know that with my parents being ill, there are bills that come up.
Yeah.
And I did explain to my parents. I said, yeah, we were part of your retirement plan. Like, you have people that talk about, like, oh, why would any man take care of another man's kids? That whole conversation. And my father and I laugh about that because he took care of me. He didn't have to. And I said, well,
Mhm.
here I am. I'm your return on investment. So whenever
Yeah.
I buy you something and you're all appreciative, like I didn't have to do it, I'm like, no, I owe that to you because you put up with me for all those years. You could have been out. You could have been out getting ass. You could have been living your best life, but you didn't. You came home. You did what a man does. You took care of me, loved me as a son when my own father was too busy pleasure seeking. Right?
Mm.
You stepped
Mm.
up. Now that means, okay, you want a new truck? I bought his truck with cash. You want your car? You want your house paid off? Done. I'm writing that check. Right? Whatever you need, I'm here. Right? And I think that this leads to my third point with this young lady. I'd be curious to know: do you have a family?
Mhm.
Meaning, like, do you have a man in your life, or even a woman? I mean, do you friends? Do you have somebody in your life that's helping you pay the bills? Because we make the mistake of believing that family and relationships is all about having sex with the cutest person you can find or being
Mhm.
happy all the time. No, relationships are about survival.
Yeah.
Like, it's about survival. Like when you have two people paying bills instead of one, it's easier.
It's, it
If
makes a difference.
the house is making 80 and you making 80, my 80 plus your 80, that becomes 160. But guess what? There's also what they call economies of scale, or AKA synergies. Synergies means that it's not like my 80 and your 80 are paying two sets of bills. I'm not paying rent and you're paying rent. We're sharing the rent, right? I'm
Sure.
paying, we could share a car, we could share utilities, we're sharing all this stuff. So not only is your income going up when you're in a good relationship, but your bills go down.
Yeah.
And nobody talks about this. And everybody thinks dating is all about fun and games. And then you see videos of people crying on the internet because they can't pay the bills. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, it's probably hard to do it all by yourself.
Yeah.
Tiara, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so I did an analysis of myself, just thinking about all of that, right? What you just said. And before we started, I was thinking, okay, so there's $80,000 here, but at least, like, let's say the range is like 16 to 28,000 of that could be going towards taxes. But we'll just, for the sake of this conversation, take it from 16. So 80,000, take 16,000 off that just for taxes and things that the government want to take from you, right? That leaves you somewhere around what, 50, let's see, 60, 80, um that leaves you with still having to pay for rent, which you said is like, let's just say it's 20, $2,000, right? 2,000 for the whole year, that's somewhere around 24,000. You just you and then if she does have kids, like you said, boys, there's childcare, there's things that you have to do for your child. You have to buy them things, you have to feed them, you have to feed yourself, you have to pay utilities. There's just all of these things that you really have to worry about as a woman, especially if you're a single woman, especially if you have children. So once I broke all of those things down, car note, I mean, really, like, you make money literally to pass it off. It leaves her somewhere around like $200 a month, right? Just for savings and investing or whatever. Which is just not a lot of money. And I can see why she's crying on the internet. Because I'd be crying on the internet too,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Yeah. I think that what I think is important for any smart people to really understand is that it's not going to get easier in the future. It's going to get harder.
Mm,
Things are going to get more expensive. Artificial intelligence is eating jobs up like crazy. Amazon, they love to lie to people. They tell you, "Oh, we're hiring these robots. They're just going to assist our employees. We're not looking to replace anybody." Oh, that's a bunch of crap.
yeah.
No, Amazon, their number one job as a company, the job of the corporate manager is to maximize shareholder wealth. So they understand that if we hire 10,000 robots, 100,000 robots, we can replace people with AI that doesn't need a bathroom break, that isn't going to ask for a pay raise, that isn't going to complain, it's going to work 24 hours a day. It's going to cost us 1/1000th of what it costs us to, to deal with a human being. And I'm not saying that that's okay. I'm saying that that's just what it is. And so there's so much more in terms of the dynamics. And I really wish, I also would need people to understand this. In America, it's almost impossible to really build significant amounts of wealth if you're not participating in the stock market. You have to be in the stock market. The stock market is the leading number one wealth generator in the history of this country. You can't really, it's, with the way workers are paid, it's very difficult to work your way to wealth. It's very difficult to save your way to wealth. It's very easy to invest your way to wealth. And I want everybody to pay attention to how much money. How many of you are stock market investors? Give me a guess in the chat if you are investing in the stock market, consistently on some level. Give me a guess. Okay, good. T raised her hand. Great. Yeah. If you follow, you might have noticed this week was a great week for the stock market. A lot of money got made, and think about this though. There's millions of people who miss out on it completely. The money flies right over their head. They're not even looking. They're scrolling through Instagram and paying attention to their favorite rapper, and they're missing out on all this money. And then they turn around, they say, I don't have any money. I'm broke. Well, of course you're not gonna have any money because your financial consciousness is not where it should be. Your consciousness in terms of what you're paying attention to needs to shift a little bit. And so when I saw this video, I felt kind of bad for her because I think that she's in a situation that a lot of people are in. And I think that the solutions are out there, but you have to seek them out if you want to have them. Tiara, did you have a thought on that?
I think you definitely said it. I was about to say, I noticed that a lot of people are distracted, right? This week we weren't paying attention to the stock market because we're watching Diddy, right? There's all
Right.
these other things that are happening. And when you start to talk about money, what I noticed that when I work with a lot of clients, obviously through my business, Real Virtual, a lot, if you start to mention new things or new habits or new things that they can do, it's just like, well, I don't want to do all that, I just want to do this, right? Like
Mhm.
people get really resistant to the idea of new things because it feels so hard for them. So I would just say to keep your mind open and keep your heart open, because I sometimes, even when I come to Boyce and he tells me things and I'm like, well, wait, we go back and forth sometimes about that. Well, just be open. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I would say that too. By the way,
Yeah.
everybody, you're watching drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. This is Tiara KJ Williams, aka Miss Black
Mhm.
Hollywood, and you can follow her actually online at Miss Black Hollywood. So I'm gonna put her Instagram up here. So go follow her on the gram.
Thank you.
Also, she is a storytelling expert. She can help you to implement storytelling into your business and what you're doing as an entrepreneur and shape your ideas. So if you'd like to meet with her and have a consultation, her email address is right here on the screen. It's info@realvirtual.net, and real is spelled REEL, and it's .net, not .com. So feel free to reach out to Tiara for a consultation. Did I
Actually,
get everything
boys, they
right?
can they can actually go just straight to to the website and book a 30-minute consultation.
Okay, so
Yeah.
realvirtual.net, the website.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I'll put that on the screen. Okay,
Okay.
perfect. So hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. All right, so we were talking about this video with this poor young lady who was really, really stressing out over money. And I'm gonna play this
Literally.
video one more time because I like to see things 2 or 3 times just to really analyze it. And I wanted to analyze it for those of you that really want to understand that the solutions are out there. It's not a mystery. Wealth is not a mystery for the people that understand wealth. If you think it's a mystery, then you got to find a different crowd to hang out with. You maybe
Mhm.
come hang out with us. Again, we do financial consciousness class every morning for free. That's the best I can do, is offer it for free. So you don't have to pay money, but you got to pay attention. So the URL b1moneytips.com is right there. You can also text the word morning, MORNING, to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. All right, so let me pull up this video one more time. I think we should watch it once more just to kind of uh see if we missed anything the first time around. And this is on my Instagram, which is Dr. Boyce Money. So feel free to follow me on the gram. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna play this clip, and here we go.
So tired of living my life in survival mode because despite having 2 college degrees and making close to $80,000 a year, I still cannot keep up with the cost of living. I still cannot afford all of my bills every month and have to live paycheck to paycheck. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I am sacrificing my mental health, my time, and my energy to take care of people in their most vulnerable moments. And a lot of the time, they do not make it. At the very least, I should be able to pay my bills. And for anyone who's thinking, well, you shouldn't have chose that job, somebody has to do it. And you know damn well if your loved one was critically ill, you would want somebody to take care of them, right? Something has to give. I cannot keep doing this. I am so tired of.
Okay. So when she says I can't keep doing this,
Yeah.
you think she's talking about the job? So it almost sounds like she's saying, I'm struggling financially, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, it's really hard, and my job is a really depressing
Hard.
job
Yeah, it's
because I'm
stressful.
taking care of all these people that are dying.
Mm.
Um, what were you hearing in her conversation?
That's exactly what I was hearing. So it just really makes me think like home health care, nursing, hospice, that kind of and actually like we actually work with a home health care staffing service. So I know that like once people get old, they're dying. And to be honest, I want to say the wages are between or they earn between like 13 to $17, boys. Like I want to say like that's the starting range for like people that take care of family members and all, like they don't make a whole lot of money. So if
Wow.
I was her, yeah, like if I was her, I couldn't believe it. But just working with this company that we've been working with, that was like they literally start at $13 an hour, on the East Coast in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I thought that was so insane. But that's what they are paying people to take care of people. So if I was her, I would definitely choose another lane, another job. It's obvious that she has 2 degrees, so she has skills. She has to have skills.
Hmm.
She's like a couple $100,000 in debt. She got to have a skill.
Well, she says she has 2 degrees, right? So she's,
Right.
according to the old rules, she's kind of done everything she's supposed to do. She went to school.
Right.
She's a hardworking person.
Yeah.
She seems like a good person. I don't know her specifics of her situation.
Yeah.
Um, and she's a pretty lady, right? Like,
Yeah.
like she could grab up a man or two if she wanted.
Yeah.
And not that that matters for anything other than me just processing just how I think that there's something going on here where it's almost as if people at the top of the food chain, the financial food chain, they kind of like to see us sort of separately scrambling individually
Mm.
for the same reasons that companies don't like when employees unionize. They don't want to see people working together, right? Because if you're separately scrambling, then you become economically desperate. Like does anybody remember like after the pandemic when they were really upset because people didn't want to come to work because they were getting the money, they got the stimulus checks, and they didn't have to pay student loans for a couple of years. So people were like, what was happening was it was like an awakening. People were discovering the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
They were really exploring all the things that I had been talking to Alicia about for years. Alicia didn't, even my wife didn't know. I've been telling her, I said, people don't know how much this is back in 2014 before the pandemic. I remember saying people don't realize how much of their life they're missing by going to work all day.
Yeah.
It's not healthy to be at work all day. It's just not. You're missing life. And during the pandemic, I think people started to get a glimpse of that and they didn't want to come back to work. So when I'm watching CNBC, I would hear people that run businesses and millionaires say, you got to go back to work. If you don't work,
Yeah.
then something's wrong with you and you're not an American and you're not a good person and just all this other stuff. But basically, they were like, we need employees.
Yeah.
We need people that are going to do the work so we can get the reward because most of these people telling everybody to go back to work, they were not living paycheck to paycheck. They're not
Yeah.
making $13 an hour, right? But they'll pay you $13 an hour, and
Yeah.
that's okay. And so I wrote down, I took notes as she was talking because I thought this was kind of symptomatic of what a lot of people go through. And as a lot of y'all know, by the way, Alicia has a lot of workbooks on financial anxiety. As a therapist, she's done a lot of financial therapy for people. So if you want to actually go to drboycebooks.com, you can take a look at some of her workbooks on financial anxiety. I'll put the URL on the screen at some point. But what I was really hearing was a type of anxiety. She talked
Mm.
about mental health,
Yeah.
how this is affecting her mental health.
Yeah.
And and this has always been my argument in terms of why we want our kids to be financially secure. Like you want to invest for them, you want to show them how to make money, because if you don't have enough money, it will affect your mental health.
Mm.
If you're under that kind of pressure, under that kind of stress, you're unhappy, you're miserable, you're sad. And life is, I mean, you should be enjoying life. Why would life be sad? It shouldn't
Yeah.
be sad.
Yeah.
But it's sad for so many people. 60% of all people live paycheck to paycheck. Did you know that?
Yeah. I
And
know
that and
something like
that's
that.
and that's interesting to me because it's an easily solvable problem. You know, it's almost a little bit well, but then again, it's a hard one to solve in terms of implementation and changing habits, right? It's almost
Yeah.
like so many 40% of all people I think are going to die of cancer, and a lot of it comes from processed food, right?
Yeah.
Simple answer is stop eating processed food,
Yeah.
but that's not so simple because the shit's good,
No.
right?
And people won't do it. I mean, every time I'm like, I want to go vegan, right? I hear people say, "Girl, I'm just not gonna stop eating my pork chops, kill
Yeah.
me or not." I be like, that's crazy. Like that's crazy for and a lot of people feel that way about whatever their vice is, whatever their thing is. Like I'm not gonna stop doing it, so it don't matter, So I think
Yeah,
it comes at
yeah.
that. Mm,
Yeah, so that maybe that's part of it too, right? I mean, when you're really thinking about like what is going on. Um, let's see here. Now, what I like what Ty says is this is one of the videos I showed to my budgeting students. Yeah, I think that's a great thing. I think that's really good to show young people and to kind of help it, bring it home to say, if you don't prepare, this is what life will be like.
yeah,
Does she look happy? No, because my father used to teach me that way. My father would show me older black men who had spent their whole lives drinking and using drugs, and
yeah,
there would be some raggedy, stinky bum on the street, and he would be like, "Do you want to be like that?" And I'd be like, "No."
mm,
He was like, "Then stay away from drugs and alcohol because that's what got him."
yeah,
Right. So when I see and then when you see all this stuff going on with Diddy and all that stuff with the drugs and all that, it's like, oh, there's another black man going down because you got into the drug culture and you think that was okay. So I almost feel like there's almost like a financial version of that, in terms of taking just smoking from the pipe of the people that are drinking the Kool-Aid of
mm,
of what they tell you to do to be successful. Because what makes me sad about it is that a lot of the people struggling, they're not lazy people, they're not criminals, they didn't squander away everything. These are hardworking. She worked hard. She went to school. She got 2 degrees. She's
yeah.
making 80 grand. She's doing a noble profession. Shout out to all the nurses, and she doesn't have
Wow.
enough money to get by. That
Yeah,
is wrong, right? So in my mind, if that's my daughter, then what I'm talking to her about might be, you got to supplement your income some way.
yeah,
Either supplement it, maybe you supplement it with a husband, right? Or you can
yeah,
supplement it with some, side hustles.
yeah.
Supplement it with some stock market investing. In this country, a lot of workers can't afford to live solo with the money they're making from their job. So you have to find some creative way to just sort of get the extra things that you need. So even little things like, if you notice people that come from other countries, what do? They all pile up in one house.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, all 8 of us live in the same house, so we can all share the bills. We don't all need to have our own house because then we'll all be individually drowning. But instead, we're doing fine because now it's easy for all 8 of us together to pay 5,000 a month or 4,000 a month in a mortgage or rent or whatever. And then
Mm,
also because what's happened there is really you're creating one of those keys to wealth, which is a surplus. A surplus is real. That's real income, right? Most people have no income. Julian Gordon actually made that point. I thought it was great. He said most people have no income. I said, explain that. He said, well, if you look at a company and you look at how they measure income, they take revenue, they subtract expenses, and the
mhm,
difference, the surplus, that's your income. But
mm,
if your revenue is below your expenses, you have no income. It's negative. So
yeah,
you think about it. Most people, their expenses are here, their income, their revenue is here, so they have no income. So
yeah,
what you need is you need that gap. You need some type of gap between what you need to survive and what you're actually making. And what you do is that gap, that is your opportunity to build wealth.
mhm,
But what you do with the gap is what determines, how you're going to do, how financially secure you are. And to me, the big race is how do I really utilize what's in this gap so I can start storing my nuts for the winter to be ready for whatever next economic tragedy is around the corner. And so the reason I'm a big advocate for stuff like family, like working it out, figuring like pick a good partner, get the tools to really get along with that person, is because you have a greater opportunity to create the gap because you get together with a solid earner then your income's gone up and your expenses have gone down, or they've remained the same. So you've got that gap, which then is like, okay, this is the money that we're putting into the investment accounts. Those are the people that are financially secure, the ones that have, and I got students like this. I got students that got over like millions in their 401ks, millions in real estate, millions in stock, making 10,000 a week selling stock options. I kid you not. I have students like this. And and you see typically in those cases, it's usually either a person who's got a solid family and some guy who's like, yeah, I've been married to my wife for 30 years and we've been building together. Or it's like, maybe it might, so if it's a single person, it might be like a mom who's just a big time saver, who's been saving and maxing out her 401k. And now she's 45, 50 years old and she's got like $250,000 in her retirement account. Right. So, or maybe another 100,000 in home equity. That's another thing. When people own houses, that's another area where you build wealth. So you got to get on one of those wealth trains, right? And if you don't, then it's kind of tough because you're kind of always on this slippery slope.
Yeah.
Tiara.
Yeah, I agree. I'm listening. You preaching in here. You preaching here. I do want to add that we do have a list of side hustles. I want to say like 40 side hustles from a previous podcast that we did. So if somebody wants that list, just to start getting your mind going and ideas of things that you can do on the side, I have a list for you.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
You guys can actually, yeah, if you want to get the side hustle going,
yeah,
you can set an appointment with Tiara. I'm going to put her
yeah,
website here. There we go. So you can go to
yeah,
realvirtual.net and talk to her
yeah,
directly. So if
yeah.
anybody has any questions, actually, I can answer some questions. I'll put, or have comments. Let's get some of the comments. So Ken Rue says, so glad I went to trade school. I made more money being an industrial plumber. Good for you. Yeah,
Yes.
there's a big movement now, Tiara, where a lot of people are not doing college. A lot of young people aren't. They're
Hmm.
going and getting trades and skills and all that, which I think
Yeah.
is great, actually.
Yeah. I said if Hollywood doesn't work out, I'm going to be an electrician.
For real, for real.
I'm about to go be a plumber too.
You
Hey,
better
listen, I'm
stop.
coming with you.
I thought you were serious. she needs she needs to lose the W-2 job. Too much coming off the top, and surely she's underpaid. Most of us are.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
great.
When average people get that gap, they buy something else or they spend it on doodads. That's true. It's a good point. Stop
Mhm.
gathering from low hanging fruit, which is buying materialistic things. Absolutely. You know what I found? Actually, a great way to make extra money, or a great way to really meet your budget and still have the surplus, is sometimes it's not about what you cut out. It might be just adding something in. Like I've seen people change their whole lives by just getting together with like a group of family members and just talking about money each week and just coming up with side hustle ideas, like
Yeah.
ways to make money. Like if you got a cool relative or a friend and y'all could just talk, like, okay, what are some ways we can make some money? We gotta get some money up in here,
Yeah.
and maybe you take a class together on how to make money. Like literally that I think the kids should just be taught that as when they're young, like just how to see the money, how to find the money. I knew a guy like that. Did I ever tell you about the guy I met who was 62 years old and he never had a job in his life?
No, tell me.
Yeah, yeah. So he was the limo driver of a car that took me to the airport when I gave a speech somewhere, and he owned the limo company. And he was like, he said, yeah, I've never had a job. I said, really? So tell me about that. He said, man, when I grew up in one of those steel towns. My dad was a steel man, and all the steel jobs disappeared. He said that was when the wino thing started. He said, because you had all these black men, all they knew how to do was go to work for that white man, and they didn't have anything to do. He said, so that's when they became, a lot of them became alcoholics because,
Mm-hmm.
you're sad, you're depressed, and you sit at home and just medicate. You just drinking liquor all day. And he said, I watched that happen. And I said, that's not going to be me. So he said, I've never had a job. He said, what I do is I know how to go get money. I know how to go make some money. And so he told me all the ways he was making money. He was like, I drive my limos. I run a car wash. I do this, do this, do this. That was his goal. His goal was to just make money. And he seemed free. He seemed happy. He seemed proud. That's really important too. I think a lot of men lose their pride when they can't provide.
Yeah.
And so I think having that skill to know, okay, if this doesn't work out, I can go somewhere else, or if this isn't giving me what I need, I can supplement. And I think that that's really the big goal. It's like I need everybody to know that there's like a billion different ways to make money,
Yeah.
not just that job application.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm constantly talking to my daughter. My daughter works here in Hollywood, and sometimes, we went through a strike. So for like an entire year, she wasn't on set. I said, well, listen, there's other ways you can make money. Why don't we go to Costco and get some Gatorades and get some snacks and whatever and go out to the park? And literally, you can take your little bullhorn out there and sell some. It's hot, you know. She was like, okay, let's do it, you know. And so I
Ah,
want to say she doubled our money that day. And just doing that, like I want to say I spent $60, y'all. I think that day we made maybe $250. And I gave her, yeah, just with Gatorade. So if ever I'm broke on a day, I don't know. We just get really creative around my
yes,
house about, what this looks like. Can we take a little bit of money and make it and double it? Can we figure out how to do that just at the park across the street from my house? We don't got to go
mm,
far. We don't have to do much. Like, how can we do it? And so we're just always
wow,
having fun and doing things like that. She's 13 now, and in a little bit we're going to start a little podcast, and she's an artist, so she draws. But I told her that I wanted her to design, she wanted to design journals and little sketchbooks. And so obviously, Boyce, we help clients do that, design, create books and all of that. And so I was like, oh, that's easy, let's so design a book and then we'll get on a podcast and we'll sell them. She was like, okay. So that's our project that we're working on now.
wow. I completely love that because that to me is, I mean, that's that black mama genius. Like, I mean, black women are survivors, right? And I think that it's amazing, like, that you're kind of showing that to your daughter, like, and that's what we've always done. We find a way to make a way. My
Mhm.
grandma used to do that, and I personally think that we got away from that when we gave up, owning businesses and land, and we traded that in for student loans and corporate jobs.
Yeah.
That's what happened, really, when affirmative action came along, and we thought that was going to be, early reparations for us, and we ended up just, you know stuck now that,
Yeah.
people just are like, we don't like DEI no more, or if we do have an affirmative action program, we're going to hire an a gay Indian woman. We ain't hire no black people.
Yeah.
Like that. So I kind of feel like, you can't be economically independent or economically dependent on other people. You have
Yeah.
to, um if always have a plan B, right? and
Yeah.
and I think that for her, here's the thing, when I look at her situation, um she's very skilled. She's a
Yeah.
hardworking person. She's got
Yeah.
all this medical knowledge. She's a nurse. I would probably advise her to consider, either taking an entrepreneurship class,
Yeah.
listening to some entrepreneurship podcasts, talking to people about possible side hustles, something that you could do in your spare time that's going to maybe add an extra 1,000 a month to your bank account. Little stuff like that makes a big difference. I,
Absolutely.
I would tell her to sit down with you. I know you're creative, and you just showed that, right? So,
Yeah.
Tierra's website is right there if you guys want to connect with her,
It
because I
sure
have
is.
found, like, in terms of all of our work in the Black Business School, the greatest impact that we've been able to have is when we have stuff like in the Prime program, where I simply showed people how to make a few hundred extra dollars a month with stock options. And that was explosive. And it was like, yeah, this is not hocus pocus. This is real. I'll show you exactly what to do. And I sit down with students. I don't know, I've probably done hundreds of consultations right by now, where I'll just be like, "Oh, yeah, you got some money saved up in stock. Let me show you. Here's, buy this. I would buy this. I would buy that. This is not investing advice, but this is what I would do. And if you do this, boop, 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 you'll have, $400 tomorrow." And it works. It
Yeah.
really works. And
Yeah.
and that's what I find is, like, when you talk about economic needs, you got long term needs, like, I've got to build wealth, generational wealth for the children and grandchildren. That those are big picture things that are very important. But then you got the short term stuff, like, I need $500 by Friday, right? And
Right.
so being able to kind of be a sprinter or a distance runner, depending on the race, I think is a skill set that should be indoctrinated into kids early, because they don't have that.
Yeah.
Their whole economic plan is go to school, go in debt, and then somebody from another community is going to offer you a job if you're lucky, as long as you don't, do anything that's too black, because then
Yeah.
they're not going to hire you. Right? That's what
Yeah.
so I don't know. I kind of think we got to change the whole protocol. What do you think?
Yeah, if I was her, I would probably tell her all the creative things that she could probably do on her own, like you said, as an entrepreneur. But there's a nurse that I came across that I really like, or like a healthcare worker. She's a nurse, but every time she'll do these little story times. and she'll tell us stories of her working with like the most outlandish things that's happened from a day to day. Like I was helping a patient and her husband came in and was trying to talk to me, and then just always wrapping things around story. And I think that story is everything. This person has gone on to create a massive following just telling stories. And I'm sure she's been able to monetize that in different ways. She has products and all of the things. I mean, I would encourage her to do something like that. Just get online and tell stories.
Wow. I mean, and I like that. I like that idea because I know you're an expert on storytelling and story selling and stuff like that. And I almost feel like that's something, I don't know, anybody who sees your website realvirtual.net, Tierra is an expert storyteller. So if you're trying to learn to tell your business story, I have seen people tell their story in the right way, and it's led to a great product and a great outcome for them. And just know, I would encourage people to also know this too. Think more of in an abundance sort of framework. Like
Yeah.
scarcity thinking is where we say, okay, gosh, I'm struggling financially. I got to cut things out. It's my
Yeah.
fault. I'm spending
Yeah.
too much. I bought Starbucks yesterday. I want to now jump off a building because I shouldn't have enjoyed my caramel macchiato latte or whatever the hell that is. Right? You know what I
Boys.
mean? Like you know what we do? Like we beat
Yes.
ourselves up. And
Yeah.
instead of thinking in a scarcity mindset, I want to challenge everybody to think in an abundance mindset like this. Here's what we're going to do. Y'all ready? This is what we call a financial consciousness exercise. I need you to reflect on the fact that you live in the richest country on earth.
Yes.
Like there is no country on earth that has more wealth than we do. So there's money here. The money resides right here. It's right under
Right.
your feet. It's right there. The gold is buried in your backyard. You just got to get a shovel. You got to go digging.
Yeah.
That next $100,000, $1 million idea is in the ether. It's there. You just have to find some way to reach out and grab it.
Yeah.
And I say this as a person who has found ideas that were right there. Like I kid you not, I have had times where I had an epiphany with somebody I was talking to because I talk about money a lot with family members and friends and everything. And
Yeah.
we would be like, oh yeah, we could do this and this and this. And then all this money starts coming out. And I'm like, shoot, I get mad because I'm like, that idea was sitting there waiting to be discovered, like a pretty girl waiting for me to ask her out on a date. Don't tell my wife. For 5 years, just sitting there, like, "Hi, I'm here. You can come talk to me." And it wasn't until I had the consciousness to notice, like, "Oh, hey, how you doing, girl?" I'm playing.
Mhm.
I'm being silly. Don't tell my wife. But really, I did. But because sometimes I go too far in my analogies. But really, to just know that it was always there.
Yeah.
That's what makes me mad is that I'm like, it was there when I didn't have enough. It was there when I was, stuck in the little world I'd created for myself. So sometimes we build a tiny little world. This is the problem economically, is that, and this is why financial consciousness matters, Tierra, is because a lack of consciousness is where somebody builds a tiny little world and you feel like that's all that there is. And you live in this tiny little world and you get frustrated because the little prison that you're in, which is a prison of the mind, is
Mhm.
not big enough to give you all the things that you want. So what I'm here to do is I'm just here to encourage you to bust your ass out of jail. Like when you bust out of jail, it's no different from like a bad relationship where you're being mistreated and being dogged out and everything else, and you forget, like, hey, wait, you're attractive, you go to the gym every day, you're a good person. There's thousands of people that would love to be with you, but you're focused on the wrong person, right?
That's right.
You're in this little horrible little world where you think everything's bad. Sometimes you got to come outside and breathe, and that's all consciousness. Like, wait, I need to make myself aware of the abundance that lies around me and go get me some of that. And I guarantee you, if you do that, if you have that exercise, sit with some other people that don't do this with your small-minded friends. It won't work. They're going to just
No.
complain and bitch about what you don't have. Get
Yeah.
with the people that are fellow dreamers like you, people that are not scared to try, not scared to explore, and
Yeah.
just have those conversations. And I guarantee you, at some point, you're going to find that idea that's going to put some money in your pocket.
Sometimes the idea wants to come to you. I think sometimes people are so busy chasing and running, and like you said, just kind of running in the wrong direction. They're so busy. They're so
Mm,
busy doing nothing but just for the sake of like, I'm hustling, I'm out here grinding, I'm killing it. But really you're just running around in a circle.
yeah.
What's the little rat? You're in a rat race. You're in one of those little rat wheels, right? So something that I do daily, and this is, I'm just going to offer this, is every day I take a long walk. Every day I take a long walk, and I allow myself. They say when you go outside and you ground yourself, your feet touches the ground. It's almost like the universe, God, whoever it is that you believe in, has the time to to talk to you. If you walk long enough, if you're able to just like decompress for long enough, things, ideas will come to you. I typically listen to YouTube myself. Like, I'll ask for the spirit to guide me to what I need to hear for the day. And sometimes, and most of the time, I'm like, oh, or if I'm feeling like, I'm feeling fearful, I'm feeling fear today, I'm feeling insecurity, I'm feeling whatever it is that you're feeling, it's like, lead me to the video to watch or the person to watch. Sometimes it's Boyce, sometimes it's Les Brown, sometimes it's like I'm led. It'll pop up. I'll listen and be like, God damn it, that's exactly what I needed. Thank you.
Mm,
And then I'll leave that feeling. And so sometimes those ideas come up for Real Virtual. The idea came up right before there was a huge 6 months before there was a huge strike here in Hollywood. 6 months before the I had an idea to start Real Virtual, and I said, okay, I don't have time. I printed out all the flyers, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And then I didn't do anything. And then the strike
mm.
happened. The strike happened, and I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off for weeks. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. The town is shut down. I woke up one morning like, Real Virtual. Okay, and here it is. And I want to say 2 weeks after that, we had our first client. Boyce, you might have been our first client. Were you our first client?
I could have been. I mean, I
You
might have
could have
been.
been. You always be like, I'll do it. What you doing? Get you some friends
Yeah,
that'll support you
yeah.
too. Get you
Well,
some friends that'll support you too. Huh?
well, that's I got you back 100%. I mean, I
I
think it's
appreciate that.
and I know vice versa is true, and
Yeah.
I think that I like what you're saying. I like that idea of kind of getting out of the rat race, and
Mm,
like that's another thing I would call a financial consciousness
yeah.
exercise. When we do, by the way, we do morning financial consciousness training every day. You can go to b1moneytips.com. And I see someone in the chat mention that I'm in desperate need to find like-minded people. Well, we meet every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, and there's over 1,000 people that come together every morning. We basically go through streams of consciousness in terms of really seeing the economics around you. So if you want to join us, it's free. Just go to b1moneytips.com, or you can also text the word morning to 87948 because I call it money in the morning. And then another place to meet like-minded people would be the All Black National Convention. The
Yeah.
All Black National Convention, Tierra will be there. You can meet her directly.
No.
The
Hey.
All Black National Convention is the largest gathering of intelligent Black people on the entire planet. My wife, Dr. Alicia, is there as well. And then also, we just have tons and tons of smart people that get together and just want to build, want to do good things for our community. And that's what the convention's all about. And the same way you were saying, Tierra, that idea came to you, Real Virtual just kind of popped to you. Like
Yeah.
that's what All Black National Convention.
I was just about to say that, voice. I remember when it came to you. You were like, I had this idea for this convention. I was like, okay, tell me about it. Because he said you got to talk to dreamers, right? Let me tell the story, Boyce. So
Please.
one day, one day, Boyce called me and was like, I have an idea to do this convention. I was like, okay, what does it look like? Right? He was like, where all these Black people get together and we learn financial stuff and we just talk about things that Black people go through and have to deal with, and but for most part get together and like-minded people fellowship in that way. I said, okay, like next year. He was like, no, like in 3 weeks. The first Black National Convention was in Atlanta 3 freaking weeks later. And you know what? I was there passing out flyers. I was there. I was there, like, handing out books and what I was like, oh my God, yes, I want to come. It
Oh,
was 3 weeks later, boys.
wow. I do remember that. I still have no idea how we did that first one. I have no idea how we pulled it off. 3 weeks. I
It
mean,
was
now
three
we
weeks.
spend a year preparing for the
Yeah.
convention. I'm like, what was I thinking?
Well, what to
Because
get it
because
done.
the beauty of the crazy, and shout out to Laneja Vet and the other people
Yeah.
that helped make it happen. Alicia and I were not dating at that time. Like she was my friend, but we were not a couple, so she wasn't at it. But it was like like that was a damn good convention.
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
And
Killer
we
Mike and David Banner came in and set it off.
yes. Yep.
Judge Olu Stevens was there.
Yep.
A lot of really amazing people. Malik Zulu Shabazz, the attorney,
Yeah.
and a lot of great. I can't even remember everybody who was there, but
Yeah.
I just remember all these big panels with all these people. I'm like, how did we organize all those people in such a short amount of time?
Y'all, I'm telling y'all, 3 weeks. That's not an exaggeration. It's not. And sometimes, like, things come, and obviously, when you have the team like Boyce to move, if you guys need the team, you can definitely call us at Real Virtual. But Boyce just happens to have good people around him. I believe, like the people that are around him are eager to help because we see that there's this person here that can dream beyond the moon, I think, and can take you with them. Like, yeah, we going where? Okay, we going to Saturn. Okay, well, let's go. And it's so energizing for fellow dreamers. And so I would just say, I'm thankful to have Boyce as my, in my circle to dream, and we can all dream together. But that actually do. You want doers too.
Yeah.
That and people that will just because Boyce, there's a population of people be like, yeah, they'll dream it and they'll talk about it and then it'll stop. I think the difference is the doers that's like, okay, we said we were going to do it. Now let's do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, dreaming is fun. Dreaming, it's like I don't know. I would almost say dreaming is like having sex, but doing is like raising the baby.
It's hard.
Giving birth to the baby, feeding the baby, raising the baby, it's a long, drawn out, tough, boring process sometimes.
Yeah.
And I always say that most dreams die because the dreamer doesn't have any discipline.
Yeah.
And that's not just true for other people. It's true for me. There have been times where I had a great idea, but I didn't have the discipline to follow it through. And it just died. So, those dreams really are like a newborn baby where if you don't feed it every day, even if it's a tiny little malnourished, ugly baby, you still got to feed it consistently. Like even the NFL started off as a ugly little malnourished baby.
Yeah.
You could buy the Chicago Bears for $500 100 years ago.
Wow.
And now these teams are worth billions. And that's because over the course of a century, there were dreamers who saw the vision and maybe they didn't see the whole vision. They saw just enough of it to pour into it because they could have been off working at the factory. They could have went off and got a job, but instead they had this vision. They worked on it together. They built it. Even Silicon Valley started off as property that nobody wanted. Nobody would. They bought the Orange Grove property because it was so cheap, because nobody wanted to live there. And so these like 6 guys all signed a napkin to say, okay, we're going to start this business together. And they wanted the Orange Grove territory because not just because it was cheap, but also it was near Stanford. They said we can recruit students from Stanford and come work here. And that eventually became Silicon Valley, where now there's so much wealth created in Silicon Valley that the cost of houses and everything has like skyrocketed. You can't even buy an average house for less than like $1.5-2 million because they make so much freaking money, right? So ultimately, I would say, see your vision, get together some other visionaries, pour into it, commit to it, and go for it, man. So Tiara, I'm going to give everybody your email address or your website. Tiara is a storytelling expert. She also has a great team that can help you to see your vision. You can have people to talk to about it, work through it, and make a plan and execute. So if you'd like to do a consultation with Tiara, you can go to realvirtual.net, REEL virtual.net. And also, you guys know that tomorrow morning we're doing Money in the Morning. So that is economic consciousness training. So if you'd like to engage in the act of economic elevation, just text the word morning, MORNING, to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. And don't forget, this podcast is also on Spotify. So look me up on Spotify there. All right, everybody, have a good day. God bless you. Thank you, Tiara. It's good to see you.
Of course. Bye, guys.
Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.